Bears training camp is over, folks. Welcome into Bears Now. I'm Harrison Graham at my house, and I said, you know what? Let's take a look at training camp as a whole, as technically the joint practices were the final camp practices for the Chicago Bears. They, of course, will practice next week before the third preseason game and, of course, leading up to week one. But as far as training camp goes, it is in the book. So we've got some Bears training camp winners and losers to take a look at here on today's show. But first, wanted you guys to weigh in on this real quickly. With Justin Fields not playing tomorrow night and several starters probably not going to play either in the second preseason game against the Colts, which player are you most looking forward to watching tomorrow night? Let me know who that is down in the comments section. Okay, let's get to some training camp winners. We'll go offense and then defense. 5 players to discuss, then we'll have some honorable mentions for the offense. DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore is the best player on this football team. Offense, defense, special teams, doesn't matter. DJ Moore is this team's best player, and he is going to make such a tremendous impact. And I think the reason I'm saying that and why I would say he's this team's MVP right now is he brings the same level of play, demeanor, every single day. He's just so consistent. I mean, that's what you expect when you trade for a number one receiver, right? Like when you make a move like that, you expect him to come in here and set the standard, not only at that position, but on this team. And he has done just that. Ryan Poles speaks glowingly about him. Matt Eberflus was on Pat McAfee show today, speaking glowingly about him. DJ Moore is everything as advertised and more in terms of what he brings on the field, but he's also just a great fit in the locker room. It sounds like he's going to make Justin Fields so much better. I'm just so fired up to have DJ Moore in Chicago. I think it's going to be a big year. Let's talk about the quarterback. He's not my top winner. I thought Justin Fields had a B+ camp. It was definitely good. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't, oh my gosh, this guy might take over the league this year. Now, you don't scramble a lot in training camp. You know, the later you go into camp, defenses kind of pick up what you're doing. So, I'm not going to be, panicking or something like that because I think it was a good camp. I thought he had a pretty good couple of days in Indianapolis. It was a solid B+. Definitely the best camp he's had. He's definitely more comfortable this year than he was last year. He's got the weapons around him. At the end of the day, I thought there was a lot of progress made, and if we take Matt Eberflus's word and Luke Getsy's work for gospel, they're happy with where he's at. Bottom line is, with Justin Fields, with how much he's under the microscope and in the headlights and headlines and spotlight, I should say, in Chicago, it's going to come down to those 17 regular season games, right? Doesn't really matter that much what he does in training camp in the preseason. Will he play well in the regular season, and will this team win games? That's what we're ultimately going to judge him on. Subscribe to the channel. We will still have a full live watch party tomorrow night for Bears versus Colts. Producer Rolly is back in the fold. He will be with us. We're going to have a lot of fun. A raffle giveaway opportunity as well. So be sure to join us tomorrow night. Kickoff is at 6 o'clock Central. We'll be live at 5 Central. Should be a fun time. I hope to see all of you there. Okay, Cole Kmet. I don't know if he had this crazy, flashy, unreal camp, but he was rock solid. He was there every day. A lot of guys miss practice in camp, so him being available every day, that's a positive. And he's the one player who got a contract extension out of all the guys who are eligible. So I think Cole Kmet's got to be a clear winner. Khalil Herbert, I thought a lot of the running backs did some good things during camp. He obviously had the great screen catch and run for a long touchdown in the preseason opener as well. I think he's a winner because he's clearly RB1 at this point in time. I think a guy like Roschon Johnson could push for that at some point, if not this year, maybe next. But could happen later this season. But Khalil Herbert is in a good place right now. Darnell Wright, I think he did this training camp, or the way this training camp went for him is probably how it should go, right? Where early on you're okay, he looks like a rookie. There's ups and downs, a lot of downs early. Then it's, he's starting to win more and more. Then the pads go on and you can see a little bit more. Then you see the preseason game and he's using his physicality. And then he has a great couple of days in Indianapolis. It's just been kind of this slow, steady rise. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro as a rookie or anything like that, but I think he's going to be a solid right tackle. Then I think over time he could have a chance to be be an all-pro. Some honorable mentions, Roschon Johnson. He missed some time early on in camp, but he's back and healthy. Thought he played good in the preseason opener. The last week or so, he's been getting some first-team reps at running back, so I think he's climbing up the depth chart potentially. Chase Claypool, he would have been a clear winner had he not missed the last week and a half or so. He was having a great camp. He falls into this honorable mention category because he did tweak something, so he's missed the last week and a half or so. Doesn't sound serious, but that does knock him down a bit. Teven Jenkins, I thought it was a rock-solid camp, having to move positions again from right guard to left guard. He's in a good spot right now. How about Ja'Tyre Carter, fellow guard, 7th-round pick last year, made the 53 last year, was inactive on most game days, but this offseason, man, he's really improved. He's gotten a lot of first-team reps with Nate Davis and Lucas Patrick missing a lot of camp, so that's very exciting for him. I think the Bears have found a reliable backup interior guard for the foreseeable future, and maybe he's got starting potential down the road. Robert Tonyan, I think he's going to be a big-time weapon in the red zone. Obviously, there's a lot more weapons for Justin Fields this year, so it's hard to know who all is going to get how many opportunities, but I think as a legitimate pass-catching number 2 tight end, Tonyan's going to fit in well. Losers on offense, before we go to the defense. P.J. Walker. Bad camp, man. Now, good opportunity tomorrow night. He's going to start, I would assume, with Justin Fields not playing, so you'd feel a lot better if he went out there and had a good performance, but after a couple pretty decent days early on, it's been a rough camp for Walker. He's been inaccurate. That carried over into the preseason game. Sounds like that carried over into Indianapolis. I don't think a quarterback 2 competition is brewing with him and Tyson Bagent, but if he struggles against Indianapolis and Bagent balls out, I don't know. It's something to think about. Nate Davis. Now, I know he's gotten back. They're starting to ramp him up. That's a positive. But for a guy you gave $30 million to still basically have not done a full padded practice up to this point, that's got to be viewed as a disappointment. He's definitely in the loser category. Lucas Patrick, listen, they signed him last offseason to be the starting center. Last year, obviously, he had the hand injury, tried to play through it at guard. Then he had the season-ending injury, and now he's hurt again. It doesn't seem like it's in the crazy serious category, but you've had him for over a year now, and he basically is never available. I'm not saying it's his fault. It just is what it is. I wonder if he's a sneaky cut candidate. We're going to do an updated cut candidates video after the second preseason game. Dante Foreman, I don't think he's had a bad camp. I just think a lot of the running backs have had good camps, and I don't know if he's really stood out a ton. I think Khalil Herbert has had the best camp. Foreman might still be RB2, but I think Roschon's got a more promising future here, and Ebner and Homer have more value on special teams. So it's interesting. We'll see what happens at the running back position. Dante Pettis, who returned in the last week or so, big opportunity for him tomorrow night. He hasn't done anything wrong, and with Velus Jones struggling as a punt returner, that door is cracked open for him. But for a guy entering training camp on the bubble to miss the first couple of weeks, that's tough for him. He's got to be in that loser category. Honorable mentions in the loser category, Velus Jones Jr. I actually think the camp has been decent, but then when you go out there in the preseason game and muff a punt and let another one hit the ground first, it's not great, right? It's one of those deals where sometimes players look great in practice and they can't play well in the games. We need to see it in games for Velus Jones. Travis Homer, I actually think he's had a decent camp, but he's listed behind Treston Ebner. He's listed as RB5, so, he's still facing perhaps an uphill climb here. Jake Tonjes, who got banged up and waived, he was on the 53 for a while last year as a tight end. Obviously, he's no longer here. Chase Allen, another tight end who had an opportunity to show something to maybe make this team. Bears moved on from both of those guys and signed Mercedes Lewis, so missed opportunities for those. Now, before we get to the defense, who do you guys think was the biggest training camp winner on offense or defense? We've gone through some offensive ones, some defensive ones. I think DJ Moore's the best player, but maybe he's not the biggest camp winner. Maybe that's a guy like Ja'Tyre Carter, who's gone from maybe on the roster bubble to clearly going to make this team. Let me know who the biggest camp winner is. All right, let's go to defense now. Winners. Kyler Gordon. great camp. He looks like a different player. Had a sick interception in one-on-one drills in Indy, which that rarely happens because it so favors the QB and wide receiver. He's been making plays all camp. He seems to be one of only a couple guys on that defense that hasn't yet missed a practice. Although maybe he missed one. I can't remember now. He's looked great, though. He's looked fantastic. I think year 2 breakout is coming. Tyreek Stevenson, he struggled early, but kind of like Darnell Wright for the offensive side. On the defensive side, Stevenson, it's just been a steady climb. He does not lack confidence. He brings an edge and intensity. I think he's going to start with Terrell Smith getting banged up and Stevenson just kind of putting that competition away, at least it seems. We'll see if Terrell Smith can respond in this preseason game, but he's the real deal, man. I think the Bears found a really good one there, and I think he'll be better as a rookie than Kyler Gordon was last year. Eddie Jackson. He's just a leader, man. I know he got banged up in that Colts practice on Wednesday. I think he'll be okay, though. Matt Eberflus kind of cracked a smile when asked about it, so I'm not too concerned. He's become a leader for that secondary and for the defense. Would not be surprised if he was voted a team captain again, but he's a damn good player. We saw that last year before the injury, and he had a really good camp as well. Terrell Lewis. Got to talk about Terrell Lewis, who kind of entered the offseason, I would say, not even just camp. The offseason is a bit of an unknown, a reclamation project by Ryan Poles. Had a great OTAs and minicamp, and that is carried over even with the pads on, right? Like sometimes you see guys flash without the pads on in t-shirt and shorts, and then pads go on and they can't match the physicality. Well, Terrell Lewis has been a menace coming off the edge. I know it's getting crowded at that position, but let's say he has another good preseason game on Saturday. I don't know how you leave him off the 53-man roster at this point. Andrew Billings, who actually didn't play that well in the preseason opener, but he has consistently played well in practice. He's your best run-stopping defensive lineman, especially on the interior. He's going to play a lot for this team, and I think he's going to give you a little juice as an occasional pass rusher as well. They've kind of worked on his body a little bit. I think he lost 4 or 5 pounds in the offseason program, so that's exciting as well. Some honorable mentions, Jalen Johnson. He's had a really good camp, but hasn't gotten that contract extension, so I'll kind of have him in this honorable mentions category. Dominique Robinson's had a good camp. It's a crowded position, but I think he's safe to make the team. I think after Yannick Ngakoue and DeMarcus Walker, Robinson's probably your safest edge right now to make the 53 with guys like Terrell Lewis, Travis Gibson, and Rasheem Green competing for roster spots. TJ Edwards, rock solid. Not the flashiest guy, but he's been there every single day. Noah Sewell, taking advantage of opportunities. Tremaine Edmonds missing some practice. Jack Sanborn missing some practice. Sewell looks like a good player. He might even get to start for this team. We'll have to wait and see. Elijah Hicks, he's had a good camp. I think he's separated himself in that third safety kind of competition, if you will. Obviously, Jaquan Brisker's missed a lot of time, and Eddie Jackson's missed a few practices now. So Hicks has taken advantage of those reps and has held his own. He's clearly safe to make the teams, good special teams player, and a reliable third safety, I would say. I think his development has really come along here. Some losers on defense. Kendall Vildor came into camp, I thought, not like super safe, but on the right side of the 53. I don't think there's even an opportunity at this point for him to climb back up to making the 53. He didn't get into that first preseason game until the fourth quarter. There's just nothing that stands out with him. I think his time in Chicago is over. They're going to opt to keep guys like Jalen Jones and Josh Blackwell over him. Jack Sanborn, he's missed some practice. Noah Sewell has shined. I thought he missed a couple of plays in the preseason opener. He's certainly done some good things, but with him being absent some and with a guy like Sewell stepping up, he's in the loser category here. I still think he probably has the slight edge to start at that Sam linebacker spot, but don't discount Sewell getting an opportunity. Dylan Cole, another linebacker the Bears brought in, who's more of a special teams ace, but played a decent amount of linebacker for the Titans last year. He's missed enough time, and with a guy like Micah Baskerville having such a great camp, who we didn't even talk about here, could Dylan Cole be a surprise cut? I think when they signed him, they're like, okay, he'll be a 4th, 5th linebacker, special teams ace, but Now you got Baskerville emerging. Obviously, Noah Sewell's ahead of Dylan Cole in the pecking order. Does Michael Walker, who they just picked up from the Falcons, could he catch Dylan Cole? It's interesting. His special teams value gives him an opportunity, but that room's getting crowded as well. Jaquan Brisker, just because he's missed so much practice now, I do think he's ready for a step forward. He's emerged as a leader on this team. He's still taking those mental reps, but you'd like a young player like this to get those physical reps as well. Hopefully he at least sees the practice field before week 1. DeMarcus Walker, he just returned, but same deal. You gave him a 3-year, $21 million contract. He missed most of training camp, so not ideal. He's obviously safe to make the roster, but we'd like to get him out there more. Hopefully he's smooth sailing the rest of the way. A few honorable mentions in the losers category. Tremaine Edmonds, you gave him $72 million. He's missed the back half of camp here. Matt Eberflus has remained optimistic about him throughout, says he's still making the checks, taking those walkthrough reps, but hasn't been out there in a couple weeks, so hopefully that changes soon. Terrell Smith, this is a tricky one. He's definitely a winner in terms of he actually has played well and pushed Tyreek Stevenson a bit in what became a competition at that second outside corner spot, but basically had to bow out because he got injured and missed some practice. Now, he's back now. I think a big opportunity against the Colts on Saturday, but I'll put him in the honorable mentions losers category, not because he's in danger to miss the team or because he hasn't played well, but because he actually had a chance to earn a starting job, and now that does not appear to be the case. Travis Gibson, this is a tricky one because from the game itself, he's a huge winner, but camp as a whole, you're listed as a fourth-string defensive end. It doesn't sound like he's popped a lot in practice. I think he has to continue to show in these preseason games that when the lights shine, he's ready to go. So I think more than anyone else, he's got to deliver in this Colts game on Saturday and against Buffalo next week, as his roster spot is definitely in jeopardy. Okay, biggest Bears training camp loser before we get out of here. Let us know what you say in the comments. I think it's got to be Vildor, right? I mean, for a guy who's started a lot the past couple of years to basically have no chance of making the team now, that's a tough pill to swallow for him. And I can't really blame the Bears for going in a different direction because Jalen Jones is so good on special teams. Josh Blackwell flashed right last year. You drafted Stevenson and Terrell Smith, who have both had good camps. And you still have Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. It's just a numbers game. So I think Kendall Vildor, that's definitely a disappointment for him. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode of Chicago Bears Now. Like the video if you haven't already. And plus, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications because we will be live for Bears Colts Watch Party. Tomorrow night, kickoff 6 Central Time. We'll be live at 5 Central. Bear down, everybody.